So Sevens is the growth mindset app for student athletes, and we do that through intentional habits. We also do that through coach mentorship. There are three elements to Sevwins. We first start off with the college success training, which is an online program. It's 9 hours of self-paced content, really geared for high school students to help prepare for college. And we use a lot of the elements. We use all the elements from the app as part of that training. We also have the application, which is provides intentional habits and help trains athletes to build that growth mindset. And then all those inputs go into the coach insights and really enable the coaches to mentor better and more efficiently. The application and the college success training is all built on a growth mindset framework. And this framework was developed by a gentleman named Greg Moore, who's been a Division I head baseball coach for 20 plus years. And it's changed from an in-class mental training session to more of a daily engagement system with his athletes. And most recently, we've taken that and automated it and created an app around it so that all this content is wrapped around the growth mindset framework for student athletes. So what we've noticed, and one of the main reasons, or the three reasons we started Sevwins, is to create an environment where athletes can begin to prioritize their minds, begin to plan better. And what we've learned is that athletes, by and large, when they get into college and go on to their next level in life, is they're underprepared. And it's not necessarily their fault. It's not necessarily the coach's fault. It's just they're overwhelmed. They've got a lot going on when you look inside their head, and they really have a difficult time being able to organize those thoughts. So they have lots of internal and external pressures they're dealing with. The tools that they've been given and the tools that they've learned just have been somewhat absent, because we really haven't placed a focus on how do we train athletes and student athletes to develop a growth mindset. So planning, prioritizing becomes challenging. Actually handling challenges themselves and adversity is also difficult for them to do in some cases. And then also they're just busy. They move from activity to activity. And the problem with that is that they don't take the time to pause and learn from their experiences. And we've got a lot of coaches on this line today. We all know that learning comes from experiencing. You can't tell somebody what to do. They have to experience it themselves. And if we can take the other 20 hours when they're not on the field with us and help them be able to pause and reflect on their experiences, they're going to accelerate their growth. So what does Sevwins do? So you've got all these areas, and our main goal is to take all these different elements that are wrapped up in a student athlete's head and help them organize their thought process and become more planful and more purposeful and more intentional. So you start off in putting these things in buckets, from school all the way to work and self if they are working. So we help them understand that they go through transitions throughout the day and start to bucketize and prioritize those activities. We do that by helping them build intentional habits, by setting goals, assessing mental skills daily, and then finally reflecting on experiences. So when we do that, we get a cadence where I can take the same framework of setting goals, assessing mental skills, and reflecting on experiences and apply that to everything in life. And again, if we can have an athlete that's more well-rounded in life, they're going to be able to give more on the field and in the court or in the gym. And so the goal is to help them use those experiences outside of practice, outside of games, to be able to train for those moments when they actually are on and when they're competing. So all this is about growth. Sevens is built on a 7-day cadence. So we start off with weekly goals. Those are at 8 a.m. on Monday a.m. And we'll go through those goals in a second. Every day, Sevwins sends a notification and requests athletes to pause at 12 o'clock in the afternoon at lunch and reflect on their day, determine how they're doing with their mental skills. And then finally, at the end of the week, reflect on their experiences. And all through this process, the coach is keeping up to speed, is given insights about their team and about the individual athletes so they can better encourage them and get past the service level. So when we dig into it and we look at the weekly goals that show up at 8 a.m., the first one is there's three. The first one starts with read. What will I read to sharpen my mind, and how often? And so the goal is to try to get the athlete to step back, think about creating SMART goals around read. And we are very specific around read. We want them to identify things that are interesting to them, that they find interest in, that they want to learn more about. So be specific about those goals. We also have the ability to allocate areas of life. And there's an interesting transition that happens in the mind when you set the goal, then you go and you look at the areas of life in which this goal is applicable towards. The next one is train. So this is not the practice plan. This is not the training routine that coaches give to the athlete. This is what is the athlete going to do extra to get a leg up on the competition, to position themselves in a way that they can gain more wins. And so examples like, I'm going to do 8 minutes of cardio before each training session so that I can bump up my heart rate and get more out of that training session. Then we go ahead at the same flow that we have in the read goals is we assign areas of life. So in this case, athletics and self. So you begin to see where you're allocating your mind dollars and your mindset and effort. And that's the goal of the areas of life. And then finally, probably one of the most important, one of the fun ones, one of the most fun to see as a coach is, what will I do to elevate others? And it's proven that giving to others elevates the mind and spirit and body, but it also creates a firmer framework and foundation for support with the athlete. So it begins to expand their mind that they're not the only thing in this world, that there's others that rely and depend on them. So again, we can also allocate areas of life to that too. So those are the 3 goals. Then we get into the daily mental skill assessments. And the daily mental skill assessments are really straightforward. They're quick. They literally take about 2 minutes or even a minute. What we're trying to do is get the student athlete to pause at 12 o'clock in the middle of the day and assess their current state of their mind. It allows them to look at their past and what they've gotten to that point in time, but also helps them create a plan and mindset to grow for the rest of the day. And so we start off with what we call lock. And this is the concentration. How well am I concentrating in this moment right now? Block. How well am I separating? Am I separating areas of life? Am I blocking out distractions? Talk. So communication. How well am I communicating? Am I listening with intent? Am I speaking clearly? Do I have good body language? And then finally, what's my energy like? Am I attacking challenges or am I avoiding challenges? And that really comes down to drive. Again, the point is, reflect at that point in time at 12 o'clock during the day, and then be able to set and be able to look at to the forward looking to how I can alter things to make my day better and get the most out of my day, even if I don't have full energy. The last one is the weekly reflections. And again, this comes in at 8 p.m. on Sunday night. And there's 2 parts to it. The first one is build on. So what were my wins and moments of strength? How will I build on them? And then from there, I can tag the areas of life that are impacted and affected by that build on. The next step when I look at reflecting on experiences is, what were my challenges and how will I grow from them? When I look at the wins and I look at the challenges, I can really take a look at the overall body of work of the week. And you'll notice as a coach, this is probably one of the more challenging things for athletes to do. But over time, you'll begin to see the journals begin to be much more specific and much more detailed. In fact, you can actually see the thought process as they write. So again, this is about the build on, work on is about reflecting on the week and learning from experiences. So how does this all work for coaches? And this is where I think the power of Sevwins will really start to differentiate from any other self-help apps that are out there, is that the coach gets to see everything. So as athletes engage in what we call growth reps, whether they're goals, mental skill assessments, or even the reflections, all that data gets organized in a very simple way for coaches to gain insights, not only about the individual, but also about the team. So let's dive into that for a second here. When you log in as a coach, you're going to see something very similar to this. You have your coach dashboard. You've got what we call the bell percentage, and that's that box up in the upper left there with the green circle. The goal of the bell is essentially like a batting average. So if you have 11 growth reps in 1 week, how many times has your team fulfilled those growth reps? And that's where you get the bell percent. We also can take a look at all the number of athletes that have been engaged and have done something with Sevwins in the last 7 days. We can also see all the athletes that have a 90% or higher bell percentage. So the point of this screen is really to drive accountability and for you as a coach to see what the overall team mindset is. Then we get in at the bottom area where we can actually see graphs. So we can look at the team assessments, the mental skill assessments for the last 3 days. Those boxes with arrows show the moving average. So I have an indication of if their separation or their ability to block out distractions is improving or declining. We can also look at the trend around energy and so on. So it really does help coaches potentially tailor practice and tailor their discussions. As I dive into the team stats tab, I can see all of my athletes on a single page, the last rep they did, their streak, which means the number of growth reps they've done sequentially, and then finally the bell percent. Each one of these categories can be sorted so that I can see the top and the low of each. And again, it helps with conversation and getting past the service level. If I were to click on one of these athletes, like for example, Deanna Bryce, I can get into her specifics. In this case, I'm looking at the chart for her lock, block, talk, and energy mental skill assessments, but I can also see all the goal journals, whether it's the goals or even the build on reflections. And that leads me to the last one, which is the team journals. So I'm able to quickly see all journals that have been submitted by every single athlete within Sevwins on my app. And the idea here is that we want to get past the surface level, be able to have meaningful conversations with athletes on the spot and instantly. So Sevwins is built to help athletes develop peak performance in life, and we power this through intentional habits and coach mentorship. The benefits for athletes is they gain clarity and purpose. They improve the mind, body, and spirit through intentional habits. And you'll notice they're going to become much more engaged, prepared, and reflective. For coaches, you can mentor more effectively in less time. You'll engage in deeper conversations and more meaningful relationships much faster. And you'll gain intelligent insights, not only into the individual, but also the team mindset.